Good afternoon, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office with a severe weather live stream special coverage today, since we are talking about a substantial tornado outbreak, including the potential for intense to violent tornadoes, that is, in the high risk and moderate risk areas in Oklahoma and much of southern and southeastern Kansas into even western portion there of Missouri. We're going to be doing this is going to be one of the longest live streams of the entire severe weather season, possibly spanning over 12 to 13 hours if it all goes well today with our severe weather team today, because again, we are talking about a substantial outbreak of severe weather. Before Ethan intervenes here, because he's going to be doing some of the talking as well, I just want to let you all know that I just pray that you guys are going to be safe today, because this is potentially going to be a life-threatening event. We have not seen a high risk like this since March 31st of 2023. Not that this is going to be worse than that, but it's gonna be kind of in the same realm of intensity and coverage than what we actually, well, the moderate risk with the March 31st was actually much bigger than this, but still in all, this is Tornado Alley in Oklahoma and southern Kansas, and we really have to be able to live stream and get the word out to a lot of you. So as you all know, there is a high risk of severe weather today across Ponca City, Oklahoma City, the famous Norman, Oklahoma, where the Storm Prediction Center is located. So I just hope that they're going to be safe with all of this activity today. Winfield, as well as Wichita, even including that area, we're looking at a high risk of severe weather today over that area. Medicine Lounge, Winfield, just again, a level 5 out of 5 risk of severe weather today. So I wanted to kind of show you all with what the models are showing, our latest CAMS guidance before this event really gets underway. I know we have one tornado warning right now, but it's radar indicated. That is actually all the way in Wyoming, I believe, and that is not even including with what we're going to be dealing with today in Kansas, Oklahoma, and simply northernmost Texas. All right, so let's go over to pivotal weather. Let's go right over there. So what we're looking at here is the RAP model, okay? And there's a couple of parameters that I like to introduce in my severe weather forecasting in my videos, as well as Ethan will also mention this periodically through in the live stream today on what these parameters actually mean. So the first one that we're going to be looking at is significant tornado parameter, and this is the fixed layer, and Ethan will actually discuss what this means in a little bit, but it's another way of looking at what are the conditions going to be like today that allow for such a prolific tornado outbreak. And one of these parameters that we like to use is STP, or short, or kind of the long form sentence or long form word is significant tornado parameter. Okay, the higher the numbers, the more likely chances that the atmosphere is volatile for intense violent tornado production. So as we go forward today, we can see that the numbers not really, actually this is, we need the 18Z run, oopsie. So there's the 18Z run, and STP values today are not particularly high in Oklahoma and Kansas right now, okay? That's the good news, right? But the good news is going to end very quickly as we go into the afternoon hours. So this is noon, this is 2 p.m., this is 3, 4, and 5 p.m. And take note, the significant tornado parameter really goes up at around 5 to 6 o'clock this afternoon into the evening hours in Oklahoma, and it really gets going by 0Z, by 01Z. This is 7 to 8 o'clock tonight in Oklahoma. these numbers are really concerning. We're all the way up to a 9 on the RAP model, and then all the way up to even a 6 in Oklahoma, and then it goes even higher than that. Look at this. Some of these numbers could actually reach all the way up to a 6 and a 7. Now, the 12Z run showed it really high this morning, right around the same time, potentially down here in southwestern Oklahoma, peaking at a 10.1 on the RAP model, which is extremely, extremely concerning. You don't see numbers like that very often from the RAP model, and that's going to be a volatile environment that does favor several strong to several intense to violent tornadoes potentially. And you're going to hear this word quite frequently in today's discussion. What's the difference between a strong tornado and a violent tornado? And I even talked to my teacher, or I even explained to my teacher about this today, because she was probably wondering also, what is the difference between a strong and violent tornado? Well, it's worded through the SPC for many reasons, right? Strong is EF2 to EF3 intensity. Intense is EF3 to EF4 intensity. Okay, so again, remember that EF3 to EF4 is intense, and violent is EF4 to EF5 intensity. So when we use the word violent, we really mean that we could have a violent tornado today, at least one or two of them, depending on what the nowcasting allows, what our WAFs will actually show. So this is the surface base cape. This is how much energy is going to be expelled into the atmosphere. Ethan's going to explain a lot of this in his detailed analysis in a little bit here, because he is actually waiting for me, huh, Ethan? And so
Hey,
he's
David, sorry to interrupt. I have breaking news. We now have a PDS tornado watch in effect.
Okay, we will look at that in just a second. Okay, so thunderstorm juice, in simple words to put it, 4,000 joules of cape today, possibly right out ahead of the dry line. I've seen values as high as 5,000 joules per kilogram. That is more than enough to get intense, long-tracked, intense, violent tornadoes today with enough effective inflow layer shear that is pretty sufficient. Let's actually take a look at this. 02Z to 06Z, as high as even 400 meters squared per second squared in Oklahoma on the 18Z. If we look at another model run, let's go over to the NAM Nest model. This is even higher, perhaps. This model is really fluency kind of thing. It just depends on, this shows a straight up linear mode environment, so we'll see which model really wins out on this. But the southern end of this, especially in southwestern Oklahoma, we could see values approaching 400 to 600 meters squared per second squared. 0 to 1 kilometer SRH, 0 to 3 kilometer SRH is of course going to be a lot higher, with some of those parameters approaching almost 900 meters squared per second squared. If we wanted to click on a sounding in this area, look at that curved photograph. Yikes. It is contaminated at 700 millibars to the surface, but wow, that is exceptional. That is exceptional. You don't see that very often. All right, so that's that. Let me bring up the HRRR, because it's probably going to be more of our model to go to today. And it's 0 to 3 kilometer SRH in Oklahoma City, greater than 500 meters squared per second squared. This particularly has up to 600 in that effective layer of 0 to 3 kilometers. And as we go forward in the 0 to 1 kilometer layer, we're even up to 500 meters squared per second squared. In simple terms, more than 150 will give you strong tornadoes. Today, we're seeing values triple that in Oklahoma and into northernmost Texas and Kansas, which, by the way, my moderate risk does cover more of Kansas, and that's because of our STP and our storm relative helicity that is sufficient for at least a few QLCS tornadoes that could be strong and intense throughout that environment. So that's why in my outlook on Twitter, I did put the moderate risk a little further north, and that seems to be the case today just because of what we're expecting. But for sure, in Oklahoma today, forget about it. You're going to have a violent tornado today. I predict at least one violent tornado. At least one violent tornado. And what Justin said, if he's still here, is said, it's one of those times you hope this busts, because if it doesn't, it's going to be a very bad day. It's going to be a very bad day for sure in Oklahoma and Kansas. All right, I wanted to get to the tornado watch. Let me go to my full screen, and we got to read things up here, because that is some serious wording based on what my viewers were saying. Let's go to watches, and there she is. So, wow, Ethan, this is almost all high risk for everything today. A high risk for tornadoes, a high risk chance that is EF2 plus tornadoes, a high risk for severe wind, a moderate risk to high risk for significant winds, and severe hail high and significant hail highs. Everything on this is just flat out bad. This is a big tornado watch. This is a serious tornado watch, in fact. And because it's such a serious wording, my job is to read this to you all. I kind of sleep on this usually, but this one, we're not going to do this. We're going to read this all to you so you all understand what this actually means. Okay, so effective Monday afternoon through Monday evening, okay, until 11 o'clock tonight, Central Daylight Time. Once again, this is a particularly dangerous situation. This is a PDS tornado watch, okay? We're not talking about a PDS tornado warning right now. This is a watch, which is a much bigger area. We're talking about numerous tornadoes, folks, so the chances of us seeing at least more than 5 tornadoes today, it's going to happen. It's going to happen at this point. Okay, with a few intense tornadoes, that is EF3 to EF4 intensity today. Likely widespread hail and scattered very large hail events up to 4 inches in diameter, likely. So it is not about, and let me kind of highlight this. Okay, you guys are probably like, oh, David has to highlight everything. This is that serious of wording that we're going to introduce. I want to be very thorough with my updates here. Okay, if this even will work. There we go. So we're looking at numerous tornadoes today, expected with a few intense tornadoes likely. So the paraphrase here is intense tornadoes likely, widespread large hail, but very large hail events up to 4 inches in diameter, and we are likely to see isolated to scattered wind events exceeding 75 to perhaps 90 miles an hour, given our DCAPE values. That is enough to, it's not just the tornadoes that you're going to be worried about today. It's going to be the wind, and it's going to be the hail. This is a full-fledged, moderate, high risk of severe weather today, and we'll look at the probabilities here in a second. Explosive thunderstorm development is forecast this afternoon along and east of a north to south oriented dry line. Given a very favorable environment for severe thunderstorms, intense supercells are expected to evolve. These storms are expected to move east across the watch area this afternoon into the evening hours. The possibility exists for regenerative supercell development over central Oklahoma this evening. Initially, large to giant hail is forecast with the initial supercell activity before the tornado threat rapidly increases. Intense tornadoes are probable, especially as the atmosphere becomes very favorable for tornadoes late this afternoon and continuing through the evening. All right. Remember what we were dealing with last week? It was on the 27th of April. Remember, we all thought it was going to bust, right? I get home and we have one in Marietta. We have a tornado in Sulphur. Remember those tornadoes, folks? Those were strong to intense tornadoes. we're going to be looking at something like that. It might be a bust early on, but we're going to make up very quickly. Once that LLJ picks up this afternoon, we are going to have an explosion of supercells, and any of these supercells will be capable of intense tornadoes. Okay. So remember, a tornado watch means conditions are favorable for tornadoes in close to the watch proximity. So you might think, oh, I'm not in the watch, but I'm like 5 miles away from it. I would still consider you all in a risk, okay? A watch, because it's county based, right? If you could just kind of demarcate an area, they probably highlighted an area. This is because I kind of learned this from Sheriff Boy and from Justin G, is that when you highlight an area, it kind of fills in the counties for you. So maybe they have it something like this, but you can tell some of the counties here are not highlighted in the watch area. And that's because it's all automatically done through a computer system that does it. They do it manually, but then the computer finishes and renders the image here. So therefore, a few counties not listed here could be in a tornado watch, all right? Because, and again, close proximity to the watch that we're dealing with right now. All right, and again, let's go to the probabilities for that watch too, okay? So probability of 2 or more tornadoes, that is almost a 100% chance. Probability of at least a strong tornado is 90%, so that's very high. And I mean, very high, especially the hail here. 95% chance for significant hail today. That is exceptional. That is a very high risk for some really large hail today. All right, so now let's talk about the outlook, because I wanted to show you all, like, it's not just a high risk for, like, just a high risk, right? There's a high risk for a reason. And when we look at our categorical outlook here, there's a high risk over central, northern Oklahoma and southern Kansas. A moderate risk spreads all around that. You got the enhanced risk, and then you got the slight and marginal. When you see a moderate, okay, even so if this kind of stood moderate today, it would be still significant. Anything above an enhanced, I see, is deemed significant here. When you have a high risk from the SPC, that is reserved, and Ethan will better explain this in better detail. This is reserved for intense, violent tornado outbreaks that you see at least once a year, maybe once every 3 to 5 years, perhaps. These are rare events, and the SPC does not like issuing a high risk just to issue a high risk. They consider a lot of factors before a high risk is declared in this area. Okay, so that high risk has been issued. It's a pink Sharpie. Well, that's what Dustin now would say, right? Tornado risk today, 30 significant. And you might think, 30 significant? That's not very bad at all. Okay, let's just say this. 30% alone without the significant would not be as serious as if it is significant. Because if it's a hatched area, there's a 10% or greater probability of EF2 to EF5. So you could almost think there is a 30 to 40% chance of a strong tornado today in Oklahoma and in Kansas, okay, in this magenta color and red. And besides that, you could even have strong tornadoes up here in southernmost Nebraska today. It's not just, oh, let's just focus on the high risk today. We might be focusing on areas to the north, because again, you got a 5% all the way up here in Iowa, and even on the fringes of South Dakota, like Sioux Falls, Sioux City. Okay, let's not look at necessarily or pack this into sense that, oh, we're just going to focus on the high risk today. That's what everyone is chasing out there for. But let's focus on the surrounding. Look at how big that 5% is. Okay, because a 5%, could be significant. Remember that tornado a couple of days ago in Texas? That was a strong to intense tornado, and that happened within a 5%. Okay, remember, this is not intensity. This is coverage based. All right. So don't think that, oh, it's a 5%. It's at least I'm not in a 30 sig. You can be very sorry if you think that way, right? Because I think we could see at least one strong tornado today within this 10% area and maybe just outside of it. All right. There is a 45 significant for damaging winds as well. And that kind of is my outlook from last night. In fact, if you go to my Twitter page, you can look at my outlook, how it closely matches on what I predict here. So there's a 30 sig for tornadoes, 45 sig for damaging winds, and a 45 significant for large hailstones, greater than about 3 to 4 inches in diameter. So in other words, this is a full-fledged moderate to high risk of severe weather. Everything is literally 40, 30, well, more like 45 and greater in these areas. Okay, 30 here, then you got 245s. I mean, you can't get anything as concerning as this because you don't see a high risk in the first place very often at all. All right, so let's actually hand it over to Ethan. While I think I covered everything, because Ethan, our severe weather analysis expert, will explain more on what are the ingredients other than instability and moisture that we're looking at. So, you want to share your screen, Ethan?
Yeah, I can do that. Hold on a second.
Okay. Because this is a substantial risk. I mean, you can't get any worse than this. But let me activate warnings. Make sure everything's activated. And there they are. There we are. Let me turn off my risk here. There we go. So we can just look at the tornado watch. You ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let me lower the this right here so everyone can see that. Okay. So we are going to Ethan B is going to share his screen and he's going to explain what is coming together for such a rare severe weather outbreak, including intense long track tornadoes. So take it away, Ethan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity, David, and thank you everyone for being here. It is a concerning severe weather day in the Central Plains, as David has been talking about, and as you're all aware from David's announcement, along with Justin G, PDS Tornado Watch is now in effect in Oklahoma and portions of Kansas and Texas. And David was already talking something about the instability here. It is a very moist environment in Oklahoma. These are current surface observations that are out of, and let me change my pen here. These are out of the Southern Plains, from the mesoanalysis Southern Plains sector. And everywhere that's marked right about in here, we currently have dew points that are in the upper 60s to low 70s. You know what dew points like that feel like. It is humid, it's sticky and nasty. That is providing energy for thunderstorms because as that heats up, it absorbs more heat and becomes more unstable. So that is a big driving factor for the instability we have currently. Surface-based CAPE based on mesoanalysis already 3,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram, and values of this above
5,000 even.
1,000.
Sorry to interrupt, Ethan. Even 5,000 down there in southwestern Texas. That is insane.
Yeah, right. It is really destabilizing quickly, and that's why we're seeing thunderstorms develop already, and we're going to be seeing some more here pretty soon. So, values of CAPE normally above, depending on the environment, 1,000 to 1,500 could be sufficient for severe weather. It's 3,000 to 4,000 right now, so that is quite significant. And we see here, this is actually looking at the College of DuPage, so a slightly different view, but the same thing. Showing surface-based CAPE, again, central Oklahoma, Texas, those values going up to 4,000, in some places even 4,500 or higher. So a lot of instability is coming into place today. But David talked about some of the instability. One of the things I do want to mention is the wind shear, which David was asking about as well. We're looking at 500 millibar heights right here. So this is about 6 kilometers above ground. This is where we look for those mid-level atmospheric jets that can, number one, increase lifting, and number two, increase the deep layer wind shear favoring organized storms. So we've got this big trough in the northern plains ejecting out into the region. On the south side of that, we have another disturbance that's rounding the base and coming into the southern plains. So playing this forward, we can see how the winds actually amplify a little bit over Oklahoma and remain quite strong this evening. By about 8 o'clock Central Time, this part of Oklahoma and Kansas, 500 millibar winds are quite strong out of the southwest at about 50 to 60 knots. So that is quite strong. And when we look at the low-level shear as well, that's another concerning factor. This is probably the most concerning factor with regards to wind shear. The low-level jet is important for transporting moisture, so that increases the instability, but also increasing the magnitude of low-level wind shear. And that low-level wind shear is very important for getting these organized supercells going. These mesocyclones, the rotating updraft. And initially this afternoon, we've got some modest values of 850 millibar flow, 30 to 35 knots, maybe 40 over Oklahoma and Kansas, higher as you head further north toward the main surface low in the northern plains. So initially some rather modest values, but as we play this forward into the evening, it amplifies significantly so that we're looking now at 11 p.m. Central Time in Oklahoma, now have 850 millibar winds amplifying through this region, 50 to 55, even 60 knots in some places. That is unfortunately a classic scenario of evening low-level jet amplification that leads to a lot stronger low-level wind shear. And one of those ways that we can look at the wind shear is hold on a second here, the 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative velocity. Now, to simplify what this is basically just the accumulated vorticity, tendency for spin to develop in the atmosphere over a given depth of the atmosphere. And 0 to 1 SRH is very important for tornado genesis because this is what directly affects the mesocyclone. So this is very important. And values above 100 to 150 meters squared per second squared, those are sufficient to get some organized supercells if you have enough instability. And as we play this forward, in tandem with that low-level jet amplifying, the 0 to 1 kilometer SRH rapidly amplifies over Oklahoma, such that we eventually end up with values between 3, maybe even 400 meters squared per second squared, right around in here especially. Central Oklahoma, northern Oklahoma as well, again, that concerning area where we have that high risk of severe weather that is in effect. And I want to actually hop over to the meso analysis for a little bit of something here. This is the meso analysis page from the Storm Prediction Center. It's a very good resource for looking at estimates of live conditions. We're looking here at the effective bulk shear. So this is a measure of wind shear over a certain layer of the atmosphere where thunderstorms are most likely. It's a good way to show different kinds of thunderstorms, how much wind shear they have available for them. So in this case, this is a current view, but something important to note here is that, especially through this region, the vector orientation of the wind shear is perpendicular to the initiating boundary. And what that means is that when thunderstorms develop, the wind shear is oriented in such a way that it's favoring the precipitation moving away from the updraft. So it maintains these more discrete convective structures, i.e. supercells. It makes supercells more probable because the wind shear is now perpendicular to that initiating dry line. That is a concerning factor because it is, as you can see, quite perpendicular through this area, and it's going to amplify further this evening toward values of 45 to maybe 55 knots, which is well supportive of organized supercells. And David had mentioned one of these. This is going to be the kind of thing, oh my gosh. This is going to be one of the last things I look at here on my little run through of the environment. The significant tornado parameter, which, to elaborate on what that is basically a severe weather forecasting parameter. Takes a bunch of different other parameters into account, adds them up, and then sees how conducive that is to, in this case, significant tornadoes. So a value of this parameter above 1 or 2 is considered significant. And unfortunately, as David was pointing out earlier, we've got some very, very large values of STP going up to 6, 8, 9, and in some cases, maybe even in excess of 10. And that is deeply concerning for the area that's downstream of this, in central Oklahoma especially. To open up a sounding and look at the forecast sounding for this environment, again, from College of DuPage,
Oh my gosh, that's
uh,
sheer.
it is a little bit of contamination here. What we mean by contamination is this is simulating thunderstorms in this environment. That can sometimes offset the actual wind shear or instability measures, so maybe not exactly how the environment's going to evolve, but you get the basic idea where we've got this really strong amplification of low-level wind shear right through here, right where that big curved line is. And that is, again, very important for getting these organized supercells. The low-level environment is very moist. You can see right down here, very moist with low LCLs, low cloud bases. Instability still at 11 o'clock tonight in central Oklahoma, 3,000 joules per kilogram. Lapse rates are still steep. The bulk shear is still sufficiently strong for supercells. Actually, if we draw a vector here, from the surface point to about 6 kilometers, right in about here, you can see where that is more perpendicular to the dry line than not. So that is favoring supercell storms to organize. And what all this means here, basically in summary, just so you don't get caught up on all these weird lines and everything. This is an environment that is uncommonly supportive of significant severe weather. As David had mentioned, we have an unfortunately concerning risk for significant tornadoes, some potentially intense to violent, long tracked. Also some very, very large hail being probable as well. 3 to 4 or maybe 5 inches in diameter could be possible, and that is well represented in the current particularly dangerous situation tornado watch that we have. It's not showing up on my end, but this is kind of the volatile environment that we are looking at right now, and what we're going to be looking at as we head into the evening. And that's about it.
Good job, Ethan. You did a great job at explaining, and we are going to be watching this in real time. By the way, the low-level jet, Ethan, is out of the south and central Kansas between 40 to almost 50 knots, so it's pretty strong up there. And if we actually click on a VWP in that area, which is, again, kind of the hodograph thing that we look for, there is some curvature, actually some significant curvature to that, because you have surface winds out of the southeast veering over to south-southwest at 2 kilometers. Not a whole lot of SRH on that. It just, again, depends on which radar site you look at. This, again, this is vertical wind profile. And right now, not a whole lot going on, but this is not the main event yet. It really doesn't come up until this afternoon and evening, which is why, while I am at work later on, I will keep this stream going, and we will make sure we have coverage for you all, because I'm not letting my guard down on today's threat. Okay, so let's actually go over and look at some intense supercells that have already... oh, yes?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt here, but I did want to add one more thing that is important for people to keep in mind. You were talking about how the shear is going to amplify as we head into the evening. This isn't the main environment yet. It's an important thing to consider. In north central Oklahoma, south central Kansas, southern Oklahoma even, if we get storms there, the tornado threat might actually increase around or after sunset. That is a very important thing to keep in mind for the people who are downstream of this.
Yeah. So just because I started this early does not mean that, oh, we have violent tornadoes going on. And the title that says Intense Tornado Outbreak with Live Cameras doesn't mean that we won't be showing live cameras. We will do our best at doing that. But again, I want to get ahead of myself because this is such a high parameter space that we cannot ignore. And like I said, today is one of the environments that you don't see very often. So we are tracking 2 supercells, Ethan. Already warranted for almost 3-inch hail in Spearville, Kingsley in Kansas within that tornado watch area, and we have had hail tracks reaching hail sizes of up to almost 4 inches in diameter with these cells.
Oh my.
Yeah, so 2 of these getting into Kingsley. If you're Lewis, if you're in Nettleton, please take shelter. Garfield, you're going to need to take shelter because, again, we have a couple of intense supercells here capable of producing very large to perhaps giant hailstones, all right? And again, this is just the beginning, folks. This is just the beginning of a long evening and a long night ahead. Especially, again, what Ethan said, after sunset is when things turn for the worst. It gets very bad. All right, and I did want to iterate on this. This is from Raw King in the chat, Ethan. The Torcon value from the Weather Channel is all the way up to a 9 in central and southern Oklahoma, almost up to a 10, which is the highest they go on a Torcon.
Oh my, yeah. I've been in the Torcon of 9 before, and you know what happened when I had that happen? Is a tornado passed about a quarter mile away from me. A strong tornado as well. Not to say that will happen to every place that's in this risk area. There is actually a local area emergency that's in effect right now for Murray County, Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, this is actually for the severe weather risk today. I've never heard of that happening, but it is a local area emergency for Sulphur, Oklahoma. I presume that's because they unfortunately had a significant tornado impact last week, as you're all aware of. But they mention here not everyone in central Oklahoma will see a storm, but the people who do will probably be a very significant storm.
Yeah, which is very unfortunate. So, yeah, we're tracking the storms in northern central Kansas, southwestern Kansas. Well, not really southwestern, near Dodge City. We have a few intense storms there, but take a look at these wind observations, Ethan, especially in Russell, just off of I-70. Sustained winds of almost 40 miles an hour and wind gusts over 50 there from the southeasterly direction.
Yeah, that is an example of the pressure falls, or the wind responding to pressure falls off to the west. That air is rushing in toward that organizing storm system, and it's really getting the ingredients together over time.
Yeah. So we do have a tornado warning. This is expiring in like 5 or so minutes. If you are downstream of this, please take shelter. Again, radar has indicated rotation with this. And besides, this is in the severe thunderstorm watch area. So really up here, even so we do get a tornado warning here and there, this is not conducive for strong tornadoes. It is going to be to the south where we have that significant tornado risk today. And I want to let you know, Ethan, this tornado watch is in effect for another 502 minutes. So we got a long ways to go.
Yes, unfortunately we do. This is a long-lasting threat, and it will last into the overnight hours as we head toward, Iowa, Missouri, although by that point we'll probably mainly be looking at a squall line with a wind damage threat, but the tornado threat for sure is going to be going into the late evening hours in Oklahoma and Kansas.
Exactly. Let's go to full screen. We have storms already initiating, Ethan, along the dry line near western Oklahoma. We have agitated cumulus. We even have exploding thunderstorms in near Dodge City in Kansas. And the air mass downstream of that dry line is rapidly destabilizing as we speak. And this is going to be a very, very big concern. There's no convective inhibition. According to the analysis, zero capping inversion right now. Zero, notcha.
Right, and that's making thunderstorms easy to get initiated along that dry line, especially further north. As we head further south, it becomes a little more uncertain as we head into the evening. There might be a little more inhibition, a little more 700 millibar warming, but that actually is not good because it might make discrete storms a little more likely. They're not competing anymore. There's just the dominant updrafts that can maintain themselves.
That is not good. That is not good at all. So yeah, in the meantime, we are going to really watch the storms in Dodge City. That's where we are really concerned about some hailers already. 2.5 inches in diameter. We have 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts potentially with these storms, and this goes in effect for another 20 minutes. So if you're in Belpre, if you're in Garfield, if you're in Learned in Kansas, you're gonna need to take shelter. These are intense, discrete storms capable of significant hailstones up to 2 to 3 inches in diameter. And like I said, this is just the beginning ahead of another 500 plus minutes of severe weather, potentially likely an outbreak as we get closer to sundown. Plainville in Kansas, please take shelter. Again, 1.5-inch hail, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Again, Plainville right now is where we're seeing that. Again, not much rotation with these storms, just again because of the environment that we're seeing. This is more linear, not discrete in nature. So this is going to likely produce some straight line winds. And Ethan, explain this to a lot of the viewers that are watching this. Why are we seeing more linear development across central northern Kansas, but the further south you go, we have more discrete development? So two different modes kind of pairing up here. Ethan, you there? I guess his computer went out on him. He'll be back in a second. So if we go to Phillipsburg right now, we just got a report of P to quarter size hail covered the ground, damaged the vehicles, time estimated from radar. And if we go to the south of the 36 corridor near Norton, we also had an imping report of some large hail as well. So we're getting some hail reports coming in already. And that means we're going to see more of those. We're already starting to see storms fire up in westernmost Oklahoma. Wish we had a Doppler radar near that area. But we do have a couple of storms, a little blips on radar. These are going to be the storms that we will have to watch in the next couple of hours as they mature. Hello?
I'm sorry, I can hear you again, by the way.
Okay, sweet. All right. What was I gonna say? See, I lost my train of thought. Darn it. But either way, yeah, we are seeing some intense storm. Oh yeah, my question was, why does the northern end have more of a linear structure, including the central portion of Kansas, versus the southern end? Like, we're seeing two potential convective modes evolving tonight with this threat.
Yeah, this is once you head up toward Kansas and Nebraska, the wind shear orientation is more favorable for linear storms. It's more in line with that source of lifting, which is the dry line. But also, as you head further to the north, you've got stronger lifting, number one, in the upper levels from the trough ejecting, but number two, from a Pacific cold front that is merging with the dry line. That's going to produce stronger lifting and a tendency for more storms to develop. And in this kind of environment, they would probably be favored to be more linear because there's so many of them, and the orientation of the wind shear.
Okay. So that's good. Good job answering. Thank you for that, Ethan. For a lot of you that were wondering about that. So linear storm mode, the further north you go, but the southern end is where we're really concerned about the extent of this. We're already getting storms intensifying south of Higgins in Oklahoma, Ethan, Kansas, Texas-ish, near Oklahoma, near Shattuck, Oklahoma. We're getting supercells initializing in that area already, Ethan.
Yeah, It's getting started. I mean, this is the early stages anyway.
Yeah, the early stages ahead of a very long day ahead. And I'll tell you, Ethan, I have never seen so many green dots in Oklahoma. There must be at least over 500 or 600 storm chasers.
Yeah, that is an aspect of today that is really unfortunate for the storm chasing aspect. The traveling aspect is there is a lot of storm chasing convergence taking place in Oklahoma and Kansas as well. Anytime you've got a big event like this taking place in Oklahoma, there tends to be a lot of storm chasers out there. Most of these storm chasers are very good people, so keep that in mind. But it does mean that the roads will be kind of cluttered in certain areas. And I hope that the storm chasers out there stay safe for sure. And the people who are in the path of this, we advise that you don't travel during this event because it's better for you to stay in a reliably sturdy sheltering spot.
Yeah, this is you explain, Ethan, just how dangerous this event is. For a lot of new viewers that may not understand the magnitude of this, explain to them just how serious are we talking today.
Yeah, a high risk is an extremely rare forecast. The last time that we had a high risk in Oklahoma was on May 20th, 2019. So it's been 5 years, and um, these high risk environments are extremely volatile and conducive to severe weather, including strong tornado, very significantly damaging winds. And that's pretty well reflected in the PDS tornado watch we have. Now, PDS, again, that's particularly dangerous situation. That is an exceedingly rare kind of weather watch that indicates above normal potential for numerous significant tornadoes. Uh, Several significant tornadoes in this case that could be EF3 plus, and we don't see these often, except even on active years, we might only see them 2 days in a year, maybe less, if it's a weaker storm season. And hold on here, I was just reading a couple things. Um, so we've got these environmental conditions supporting a high risk and a PDS tornado watch. Again, are both things that very rarely happen. You might get these once a year, once every couple years sometimes. And the last time we had a high risk at all was March 31st, 2023. You know what happened that day. We had numerous tornadoes. So, considering all these factors, it is a very rare occurrence and unusually dangerous in numerous regards.
And believe me, the SPC does not like putting out high risks, right, Ethan? They hate. I mean, it takes they have to agree. I think there's like 7 or 8 forecasters at the Storm Prediction Center that have to all agree on this. I mean, it is the most serious categorical risk that you can think of. It is only used for particularly dangerous situations usually. So, just for reference, so for those that are wondering how many people are impacted by the significant kind of categorical, let alone 5 million, Ethan, are under a significant risk for tornadoes. The 30%, let alone, almost 2 million. So we're getting an estimated, let me actually add this all up to see how many are we looking at in the population. So we have 5.3, 5 point, okay, we'll do 5,000, 5,333,777 plus 1,898,325 plus 1,976,463 plus 5 million, even in a 10%, 121,950 plus 5,863,815 plus 17,211,960. Guess everybody, how many residents are impacted potentially by a tornado risk today? I want you all to guess in the chat. Because I'll tell you what right now, it is exceptional. Wait until I read
Yeah, and while Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait until you hear this, Ethan. So the answer is 37,406,290 residents, Ethan, and everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's impacting numerous different areas, numerous different states as well, and a lot of towns and cities, unfortunately, in that risk. While you all are, getting these numbers and everything, I did want to address a question we had here from T-Town Tornado, asking about Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma is in a significant severe weather threat tonight, and that does include significant tornadoes, very large hail, damaging winds as well. That risk is probably in Tulsa going to be mainly between, I'd say, 8 p.m. and 3 a.m. in that time frame. But so yeah, Tulsa is in that significant severe weather threat, and you should be near a basement during that time frame specifically. But there is a watch already in effect, and I don't know if it includes Tulsa just yet. But that is a PDS watch.
Yeah. I would say, okay, as I explained earlier, folks, that just tuned into the stream, I want to reiterate this, and Ethan, you can kind of get a little bit of a new learning curve here. So, as you know, they use some kind of a pin to draw and highlight an area that's going to be under tornado watch. It's the computer's job to fill in those counties that are at least more than 50% covered by that area. So I would say, okay, so I'm going to have a pin here. So anywhere, actually, this is too fat. Oh my gosh. Okay, so right in here. Okay, so I'm going to draw this area up. And Ethan, you can see probably my screen. If you're in that circle, in the red line, okay, so Tulsa, you're within the red circle, okay? Ardmore, you're in the red circle. You're in a PDS tornado watch. Now, I don't want to lead you guys. I don't want to be like, oh, just, it could only fill in so many counties with that pin, right? So if you think about this, maybe it didn't cover enough of these two counties up here to highlight those two counties, let alone under a tornado watch on this particular watch. Now there's another tornado watch in a different magnitude that extends north of this current watch, but the PDS tornado watch, let alone that we're focusing on, which goes all the way into central Kansas and southward, okay, includes Tulsa, based on my circle calculation. So if you're in Tulsa, again, you might be like, I don't think it will make a difference if you live on, let's see, North Denver Avenue at address 570 versus if you live on North Guthrie Avenue in Oklahoma at address 568. I don't think it's going to matter very much because I know some of you are like, oh, well, at least I'm not in a tornado watch. I would put you guys under one. It's kind of a blend. Like, in other words, intense tornadoes can occur within close proximity to the watch. So just because you're in Tulsa and you're not under a tornado watch does not mean you won't be under one later on, okay? So make sure you have your weather radio on, because if you don't, you're not going to be prepared. And that's how fatalities happen and mass casualties happen, because people are not prepared for dangerous weather, all right? So that's kind of what I wanted to kind of clarify. That in Tulsa, I would say I would put you under a tornado watch, kind of like in this area, kind of a county like that. Okay. So, yeah. So we're gonna track this. We have a supercell, Ethan, south of Higgins that is really intensifying quickly. That's probably gonna get severe thunderstorm warned very soon. That really has intensified quickly.
Higgins. Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. It really has intensified, and I'm really, really, really concerned about the storm because it's, the downstream environment going to become favorable. And echo tops, Ethan, are already up to almost 40,000 feet with that storm. So they are exploding.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a number of storm chasers that are out there in that area.
Tornado warning. Tornado warning. Actually, it is in Tennessee. So let's go over to Tennessee right now. Wow, a different. That looks like, oh my gosh, Ethan, you need to get to the Tennessee storm right now in Bellwood, Taylorsville, Tennessee. That is some intense rotation.
Yeah, let me hop over there on the radar.
So if you are downstream of this, Cathridge, if you're in Tanglewood, Monoville, if you're in Riddleton, if you're in Graveltown, defeated, please take shelter, difficult, Kempville, Tennessee, you need to take shelter. We are talking about a tornado warning right now. I know this is not in the main risk, but there is a risk here, and a risk means there is something. There's a risk, there's a chance.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So that is a tornado warning in central Tennessee. This is for central Smith County and northeastern Wilson County, effective until 3:30 p.m. Central Time. And as David mentioned, it includes the cities of Rome, Difficult, and Carthage. This is going to be to the east of the downtown Nashville metro area.
Ethan, we also might have debris on this. Near Bellwood, if you correlate it with rotation and reflectivity, there is a small CC drop.
Let me check.
That should be confirmed.
Hard to tell.
Oh gosh, yeah,
but...
that's a big CC drop, Ethan. It's near Bellwood. That is a CC drop because if you look at, okay, let me circle in the area that I am interested in seeing. So it's this area that I circled in. Oh wait, you guys can't even see it. Shoot, on your end. So let me bring up my pin. It is this area right here where we have the CC drop near Bellwood, Tennessee. Let's go and look at. So that's that area. And then when we correlate it with reflectivity, it is with high reflectivity values. So that might be, that's a CC drop. That's a tornado on the ground. Northwest of Bellwood right now. Northwest of Bellwood, we have a tornado on the ground.
Yeah, it looks like it based on radar imagery there.
Yeah, see what I mean? There's a CC drop. And that's correlated with velocity, with a tight velocity couplet in that area. So that is a tornado on the ground right now.
Yes, it is. And it is headed toward Rome, Tennessee. And an important thing to note is if you're in Rome, you're going to be dealing with heavy rain before the tornado hits. So you are going to have no visibility of this storm until it's getting close to you.
Yeah. So again, when we look at the radar yet again, this is where we have the debris ball. This is just to the northwest of Bellwood. This is moving pretty much right towards Rome and Tanglewood, or Tanglewood, Monoville, Riddleton, Graveltown, defeated. If you're in Kempville, if you're in difficult, clears Bend, you need to take shelter. There is your debris ball right there. That CC drop denotes that there is debris being lofted based on radar. And okay, we just got a new scan in. Let's see if it's on the ground still. Yes, it is still on the ground. It is now northeast of Bellwood. Ethan, that debris ball has expanded.
Yeah, this is what we usually see with this progression with the tornado. Once it starts going, it expands the debris because it starts to centrifuge out from the center of the vortex.
Let's see if we could actually see this in more detail. I'm going to have to stay on the high plains area, though. Storm chasing from my computer. That should get confirmed, though. I don't know why they have not confirmed that. That is pretty intense. That's a debris ball. So
It's a pretty clear signature that there is a tornado there.
Yeah, there is. So if you are downstream of this, again, what Ethan was saying, you're going to get a lot of heavy rain, so you're not going to see this tornado very well at all. And that's how fatalities happen or injuries, because you don't see it, and then next thing you know, it's on the ground and it's doing damage. So we can see there is a little bit of a CC drop with that tornado right now that is approaching and getting close to Rome. Yeah, it's right here is where we have that little CC drop. So Carthage, Smith County in Tennessee, you definitely need to be in your storm shelter. Dang, that CC drop, Ethan. It's gotten deeper.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty clear signature of a tornado there in that area.
And yet, it's radar indicated. So it should be updating here
At the moment.
soon. Yeah. That was a... So, Rock City, Tanglewood, Monoville, Riddleton, Graveltown, defeated, Kentville, difficult. Even Carthage, you need to be taking shelter right now. That is a small debris ball.
It is definitely a tornado debris signature we're seeing there.
Yeah. Okay, we got a storm. We're going to have to get on to Oklahoma very soon. That storm is intensifying pretty quickly with 60 to almost 65 decibels, Ethan, on that storm.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's going up pretty quickly, and that's indicating that it's starting to use the environmental instability.
Yeah. So we're going to keep an eye on this, Rock City. We're going to have to keep an eye on that over the next few minutes. We do have a tornado risk over here in Tennessee as well. No tornado watch issued, fortunately. But that doesn't mean maybe they might issue one. Who knows? Probably not, though. Well, we are seeing some intense storms in central and northern Kansas are a very intense line of storms with hail that is 2 to 3 inches in diameter potentially. We had a few hail reports already indicating hailstones of at least 1 to 2 inches in diameter with those warnings. And then further south we go in Dodge City, we also have intense supercells here with a string of hail reports as well. Offerville in Edwards County, social media measured quarter-size hail, slightly bigger even, with those storms. So, yeah. And then, of course, to the south, that's hotspot. Hotspot. What's up, Chase McLean? Welcome to the stream. You're nice and early before the big event comes, which, by the way, Chase, high risk has been issued today for intense to violent tornado potential today in Oklahoma and southern Kansas. Today is looking bad. What's the tornado count today? So far, last I checked, we had 1 tornado report. Don't let that fool you. Don't let that... 2. We have 2 tornado reports so far. But remember, as what Ethan said, it's really not until about 3 o'clock today is when it really starts picking up. And that is why I am going to stay live. Even so I go to work, folks, Ethan and this team will be here streaming this. Because it's going to be that significant. Yeah, we have a new severe thunderstorm warning in Learned, Kansas, Ethan, for 1.5-inch hail, and that expires in 40 minutes. So we have a new severe thunderstorm warning there in Learned, Kansas. But we have a supercell right down here in Higgins that has shown signs of intensification, with echo tops now, everyone, reaching a little over 40,000 feet high.
Yeah, and we did have a question as well, asking if there's anything headed around the Nebraska area at this point.
Nebraska. What part of Nebraska? Nebraska's pretty big. What part of Nebraska? Native H4 Again, what part? Chris Collins, welcome to Tropical Storm membership. You are awesome. And it makes sense because I'm going to be covering hurricane season here in less than a month. And these membership levels work perfect, don't they? Dang, they're on top of this storm. Wow. That is a higher warning. Almost 2-inch hail, Ethan, and 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts on this storm in Great Bend, Kansas. Pawnee Rock under a severe thunderstorm warning. And it's like a shape of a diamond. If you draw the vector from the tip of that warning, it's kind of like a diamond. You can kind of draw it.
Yeah, we did have a little bit ago, about 10 minutes ago, a large wall cloud reported just north of Lewis, Kansas, and I believe that was on this storm.
Okay, so wall cloud, which means what, Ethan? That means we have an organizing storm that might produce a tornado.
Yeah, that means we do have a mesocyclone present for sure.
Okay, we have now Lego and Lifestyle said new meso discussion is out on that storm. So severe weather threat for tornado watch 187, 189 continues. Summary: initial supercells just east of Dodge City will intensify as they move eastward across south central Kansas. Very large hail, potentially on the giant side. I'm adding a couple of words here. With increasing threat for strong tornadoes are anticipated by 4 to 5 p.m. So within the next hour, Ethan, these supercells will be capable of producing strong tornadoes. Discussion: a trio of convective updrafts continue to build just east of Dodge City area. Low-level hodographs remain enlarged, but a county downstream of these enlarged about a county downstream of these supercells. As this activity spreads east into the greater SRH environment, tornado threat will rapidly increase. Modified 18Z DDC sounding, which 19Z surface observations suggest up to 3,000 joules of surface-based and mixed layer cave should be common to central south Kansas in the Medicine Lodge vicinity. Lesser buoyancy is still prevalent further east towards Wichita, but a 50 to 80-mile wedge of clearing will promote rapid destabilization into early evening. So what they're saying, Ethan, is these supercells will rapidly organize with eastward extent. So these are the storms down here east of Dodge City that really need to be watched. Those could be the ones to produce.
Yeah, they could be the first ones that really become tornadic this evening. So downstream locations like Medicine Lodge, Pratt, Kingman, Anthony, Hutchinson maybe, and eventually places like Wichita and Wellington, you're really going to need to be watching out this evening because that's where these storms are going to be encountering strengthening low-level wind shear and an increasing chance for tornadoes.
Yeah. I also wanted to let you all know that the tornado warning in Carthage, while it is still radar indicated, we do not have a debris signature anymore on that. So that tornado has lifted off the ground finally. But these storms right within this environment could become tornadic because of the shear that we're looking at. So and that warning has been canceled. So now that gives us an opportunity to really focus in on these storms in Kansas and Oklahoma. And boy, Ethan,
I'm sorry.
There is a lot of hail markers on this storm, and I learned that is a intense storm, and echo tops on this are already 55,000 feet.
Oh my, yeah, that's a summertime thunderstorm depth when you get that high. That's double the height that we get sometimes in the wintertime severe weather threats, depending on the situation. By the way, I did want to say we did get some specification on that Nebraska question, the Buffalo County area in Nebraska. I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure where that is.
Yeah. Let me look for it on GR2 and analyst. Because GR2 analyst will give out county names, which is very helpful, but Radar Omega doesn't. So you said Buffalo County. Buffalo. Okay, Buffalo County is right here. So they're right past that cold front, it appears, Ethan. Maybe a storm or two is possible this afternoon and evening. Let me roll through. Actually, the dry line is just... Actually, let me do this. Let's go to satellite, because that will help out a lot more. Yeah, so the greatest severe threat is east of your area right now. Not that you won't see any severe threat, but the chances of any significant severe threat is being monitored closely. But it looks like, depending on what part of Buffalo County, if you're in southeastern Buffalo County, then it's a different story. But if you're like in southwestern Buffalo County, you're looking good. You're pretty fortunate, Native. You're right on that cold front dry line area. Anything east of there will be significant. And we are going to really, really watch conditions very closely. But that storm in Learned has already 2-inch hail marker on it, Ethan. That hail has gone up a little bit.
Absolutely, and that's a reminder. That should serve as a reminder for everyone today that tornadoes are a big concern, obviously, but another concern is going to be very, very large hail. And some of these mature supercells, once they really get going, we could have hail that is in excess of 4 inches in diameter. place to cause structural damage even without a tornado or wind damage concern.
Ellis County. So Ellis County, probably you're in Nebraska. So
I
yeah,
I don't think that's Nebraska.
okay, Rice County.
Can't be sure.
Oh, there, I found it. Ellis. Ellis County. What part of Ellis County? If you're downstream, this is a broken line, so you might get a little bit of a luck here if you are in Victoria, because these storms are going northeast, so you might brace a break. But if you are like northeast Ellis County in Kansas, then I'm sorry, you're going to get hit. Hayes, you're in Hayes specifically. Okay, yeah, Hayes is getting hit really hard right now. You're really getting hit with some hail, some strong winds with that storm. And yeah, Ethan, there is 35 to 45 mile an hour sustained winds in that area in Hayes from the southeast, with wind gusts over 55 miles an hour. You there? Hello? I guess he disappeared. I'm watching it blow in. Oh, you are? Be careful, please, all right? Because that storm is right on your doorstep. There is actually some confluence with that, too. You there, Ethan? I guess his computer went out again. Hello? Hello? Ethan will be back, you guys. His mic is giving him trouble. So if you're in Hayes area, please take shelter again. No severe thunderstorm warning on that, quite frankly, but there is a lot of lightning and some quarter-size hail. And then further south we go. This cluster of storms down here is the area that we really gotta watch. So if you're in Arnett, please take shelter. Again, we have a strong thunderstorm there that is showing signs of intensification. We go and look at echo tops, 40,000 foot echo tops. If you're in Woodward, Fort Supply, Buffalo, if you're in Protection, Coldwater, Greenberg, those storms really initializing. And that is where we have that dry line that is oriented. You can see with what we have, these storms already firing up. Already firing up. And they are strong. And we do now have a severe thunderstorm warning. Ethan, you back?
I am back.
Yay! Yeah. Welcome back. So, Woodward, Moreland, Sharon under a severe thunderstorm warning now in Oklahoma, Ethan. Severe thunderstorm warning in Oklahoma for 1.25 inch hail on that storm. And echo tops are already reaching heights, Ethan, of almost 50,000 feet.
Yeah, as David was saying, you all heard this storm was, one of the ones we're going to be watching early on, and it is now severe thunderstorm warned. To get some specifics on that, that is.
Hello?
And North Wilma, this is 4 p.m. time.
Boy, your mic is really cutting out. Do you have a lot of programs running?
Yeah,
That's probably why. You probably have a lot of windows open on your computer.
I have to in these situations. You can hear me though now, right?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Learned might get tornado warned. Oh boy. Let's go to learned right now. Let's go to learned Kansas. Yikes. That rotation on that storm and learned is definitely increasing a little bit.
Yeah, that will be one to watch.
Yeah, so if you're in learned, excuse me, if you're learned, please take shelter. It looks to be a little bit of a hook on that storm. If you're in Pawnee Rock, if you're in Dundee, if you're in Radium, please take shelter. And we got a new severe thunderstorm warning. This time for Nebraska. So if you're in Campbell, if you're in Blue Hill, Nebraska, please take shelter. We do have 1-inch hail on that storm. 1-inch hail.
Yeah, and we'll see what it does as it matures further.
Yeah. For a lot of those that are just tuning in, like I said, if we actually go to the Storm Prediction Center. Oh, we got a new meso discussion downstream. Downstream watch assurance is expected. I'm just going to read through this really quickly. But that's funny. There's a lot of convective inhibition downstream into northeastern Kansas. A lot of surface-based SIN, which is convective inhibition, of almost negative 300. There's a lot of uncertainty on how much clearing will occur. But yet they're likely to issue a warning. So there's some mixed uncertainty there.
Yeah.
Man, all these
It's
warnings
still
going
an
off.
unstable. I'm sorry.
So yeah, we have a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings going off right now in northern Kansas. Right now, Smith Center, you're gonna need to take shelter. Severe thunderstorm warning, and there is some rotation within that area. So yeah, this line is capable of producing a tornado or two. That narrow line. All right, go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah, it's still a very dynamic system, so we do have that risk going into Kansas as well. And what we're generally expecting to happen here is storms initially taking place, like we're seeing right now, in central Kansas up into Nebraska, then building southward into southern Kansas, and eventually southward into central Oklahoma. And as time goes on this evening, the tornado threat is going to increase with time because of that low-level wind shear increase. So, we're, as David has said, we're just at the beginning of this event.
Yeah, and if we take a look at the SPC outlook, we have a high risk of severe weather, and that is driven mainly by tornado. It's literally tornado driven at this time with a 30 sig for tornadoes and a 45 significant for damaging winds, and a 45 significant for hail. You don't see this very often, Ethan, but everything is not only significant, but it's 30, 45, 45 today. I mean, it's all magentas across the board with the probabilities.
Yes, it is very high potential for all categories, and tornado risk going into the high risk category. I do want to mention as well a little bit of a comment here from Jake in the comment section. If we do have a little bit stronger of a cap, that's not going to preclude a tornado outbreak. That might actually make it worse because we have more inhibition limiting storms from interfering with each other. So we might just have these more dominant updrafts, especially with southward extent, and those can be the ones that produce really significant severe weather.
Yeah, and also Jake, to kind of point out what you said there too as well. It might just bust today. Don't be surprised. I mean, you're already assuming it's gonna bust when we are not even in this event yet. So just I hope it busts, but for them to put a high risk out, there's a lot of confidence, Ethan, right? Like,
Yes.
they really have to make sure that there is parameters there for it. So if we go to
The Storm Prediction Center. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to briefly mention, Ethan, right out ahead of this line, D-Cape values are almost 1,600 joules per kilogram. D-Cape values.
Yeah, and to elaborate on that, what D-Cape is downdraft cape. You know cape, we talk about all the time, is the energy available to updrafts. D-Cape is the energy available to downdrafts. So the higher the value you get, the greater the risk for these energetic, strong downdrafts in thunderstorms. Once you get above 1,000, you've got increasing potential for significant severe winds. And as David said, we're already up to 1,600. That means some of these storms are probably going to contain wind gusts that are probably hurricane force.
Yeah, and that is really, really, really bad. Also, surface base Cape, Ethan, right out ahead of this storm in Oklahoma is almost at 5,000 joules per kilogram.
Oh my, that is a lot of instability.
Yeah. PDS Tornado Watch, something I've never seen, Jonathan Miller said. Exactly. You don't see those that type of watch very often. And Ethan, explain to them, what is a PDS tornado watch and why is it different from a normal tornado watch?
Yeah, so a normal tornado watch, you've got typically within 25 miles of a point, you've got about a 40 to 50% chance of a tornado. That's usually when they start to issue these tornado watch probabilities. Uh, but there are special circumstances where the tornado risk is so great that they issue what is a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch. And that's when the situation is just so volatile and there's an enhanced potential for multiple strong tornadoes. In that case, you often have a greater than 95% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of a point, and a greater than 80% chance of a strong tornado within 25 miles of a point. And to get those conditions and to get that certainty come together is a very rare thing to see. That's why these PDS tornado watches are very uncommon. Out of all the watches that get issued in a year, hundreds of watches, there might only be one or two, maybe three or four if it's an active event, that end up being a PDS.
Exactly. And that's why we are streaming live on this all day. So we're going to really keep an eye on these storms in Garfield, in Lewis, Maxville, Kansas, because that's where we are watching for these storms to move into a much more favorable environment, conducive to strong tornado genesis, especially in Pratt and further east is where we're concerned about. Where we are concerned about that threat existing.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So now Jake said, "Oh, okay. So that outbreak was much worse." Um, what were the percentages for the tornado outbreak in Alabama in 2011? I know for a fact the tornado percentage, Ethan, wasn't it like 60% sig or something?
It, it was 45% significant.
Oh, okay. That's pretty high. And now we have a 30 sig. So that one, if you want to be specific, that one was worse than this one. But again, we haven't gotten into the worst of this yet. We won't know until after this has ended. Okay. Jake said, I think there was 4 EF5s.
Yeah, that's correct. With the 2011 super outbreak.
I don't think we'll see that this time, Jake. Raw Food Writer says, David, do you expect an EF5 tonight? Ethan, what are your thoughts?
No, to say that we expect any tornado rating, especially an EF5, which is the absolute rarest kind ever, no, we can't say that we expect that. We can say there's an enhanced potential for significant and maybe violent tornadoes, but we can't say we expect a specific rating, especially in EF5. Forecasting is based off of probabilities, so we say things are possible, likely, or very likely, things like that. So to say we expect an EF5, no, we don't, but there is enhanced potential for intense tornadoes. That's really the sum of what we can say at this point.
Why is my WAFs not letting me in? The WAFs model. There we go. So let's see. Let's go down south. Man, all these warnings are going off. It's just crazy right now. So if we go to radar, let's go to radar here, composite reflectivity. Wait, why are we not, is it not working? Oh, that's because I'm on the wrong one. Oh, that's because I'm on the wrong date. No joke. Okay. That's why. I'm on the wrong date this whole time. And it did it again. Why
Wanted
did...
to mention to you,
Go ahead.
sorry. I just wanted to mention to you, David, the wrap is starting to pick up on the evening environment for on the mesoanalysis page for Oklahoma, and it is still depicting effective layer STP of 11.
Oh my gosh. Wow, Ethan, look at the WAFs. Dude, you need to see this. I'm going to send you a link to this. Chat, take a look at how many discrete cells this thing has. This is a high resolution
Hey,
model.
wow, I have not been on this page before. That is interesting.
Oh, this is very good. It basically it updates every 30 minutes and you can see latest STP, mixed layer cape forecast. You could see tornado potential. You can see a lot with this. It's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. That is very interesting, but I'd have to really look into this to be able to use it comfortably.
Well, I'll tell you right now,
But yeah,
it's
I'm seeing on your stream there, yeah, lots of discrete storm tracks, and those southern ones especially are really concerning because they will very likely be supercellular, and they will be around the bullseye of the effective STP of, between 8 and 11, so they would be able to take advantage of the environment more than storms to the north.
see if I can use a vertical motion here. No, dang it. Oh yeah, right here. Severe wind tornado next 30 minutes. Golly word. This is pretty concerning. Some of these storms, Ethan, have at least a 35 to 60% chance of producing a strong to violent tornado based on the wafts.
Yeah, it's looking at these environmental factors and statistically going through the probabilities, and it's showing up some unfortunately high potential. So, again, with those discrete supercells, they can take full advantage of the environment and potentially produce several intense tornadoes.
Exactly. And SB Cape today, Ethan, downstream of the environment is only increasing potentially in southwestern Oklahoma up to 5 to almost 6,000 joules per kilogram on the WAFS model.
Yeah. Also want to say we've got a new severe thunderstorm warning in eastern Kiowa, northwestern Comanche, and southwestern Pratt counties in south central Kansas. This has been reported as producing golf ball size hail west of Coldwater. So that is a new severe thunderstorm warning moving northeast at about 50 miles per hour.
Wow. Yeah, we got to watch these storms. They are intensifying. We're starting to get things heated up. By the way, Ethan, the storm in Oklahoma has echo tops of already 50,000 feet.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a pretty deep storm right there.
Pawnee Rock, we have echo tops of 55,000 feet. Pawnee Rock, 55,000 foot echo tops. And the storms to the north of that in northern Kansas, 50 to 55,000 foot echo tops.
Very deep and very strong thunderstorms going on right now. Strong enough to produce spotter confirmed golf ball size hail, at least.
Also, the storm, wow, that rotation. That rotation in Pawnee Rock is really intense, Ethan. This is in Kansas. If you're downstream of this, Great Bend. If you're in Elbert, Pawnee Rock, please take shelter right now. That rotation is intensifying a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely want to watch as that one's headed up toward the Dundee and Great Bend areas, especially. That portion of the warning is for southwestern Barton County, and that's a substantial storm coming in. It's got golf ball size hail maybe and 60-mile-an-hour winds, in addition to, as David mentioned, potentially some gradually increasing rotation. And that is only one of 16 severe thunderstorm warnings we have in effect right now.
Make that 17.
17.
Yeah. Ethan, by the way, that has a tornado possible tag on it. Just be aware of that Pawnee Rock storm.
Yeah, we will watch that.
So, yeah, severe threat is really getting underway right now in Kansas and Oklahoma. It's a matter of what will it be like in about 4 or 5 hours as the tornado threat maximizes. But I'll tell you right now, did we get a new warning? I think we just got a new warning. No, we didn't. I thought we did for a second. Boy, these winds downstream of these storms are intense, Ethan. 30 to almost 40 mile an hour sustained winds coming from the southeast.
Yeah, absolutely. That is indicative of a strong storm system.
We have a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings in South Carolina and in Tennessee right now. Let's just kind of do a general update on these. I know these are not as important, but still, we have 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts from all three of these. If you're downstream in Simpsonville, Woodruff on the 180, 385 corridor, state route or Interstate 26, you're going to need to take shelter. We're looking at quarter-size hail and some damaging wind gusts, and dew points in that area are in the 70s with daytime temperatures in the 80s, so it's definitely muggy out there. If you're south of that, Saluda in South Carolina, there's a severe thunderstorm warning warranted for damaging winds and large hail. So there's that cluster of storms, and we did get some thunderstorm wind damage earlier, Ethan, north of Athens, tree down on Crabapple Hollow Road near Nowhere Road.
Wow, so many different areas of severe weather going on today.
Yeah. So on I-40, we have also a line of severe thunderstorm, or kind of a broken line of intense cells, multi-cell, with hail up to 1 inch in diameter and wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour. This is again moving southeast. We have also another storm in Spring Hill, Franklin, that has also 1-inch hail and 60 mile an hour. Oh, wow. One storm actually has almost 2-inch hail with it. So if you're downstream of that, you need to take shelter. Again, that is an area really active right now with severe weather. But areas to the west is the granddaddy severe thunderstorm tornado outbreak today. And that is going to be the area that we've got to really watch. Boy, these
Yes, especially... Oh, I'm sorry.
These echo tops really exploding, Ethan, in intensity in Woodward, Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's really starting to grow in intensity with these thunderstorm updrafts. And like you said, the next 4 to 6 hours are going to be really critical because that's when things are probably going to really start ramping up.
Yeah. Ethan, can you go to Pawnee Rock right now? That rotation.
I am on it.
Oh, downstream warning is issued. Wow. 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts and 2-inch hail on this with a tornado possible tag on it. So if you're in Great Bend, please take shelter right now. That is a very intense updraft with echo tops, Ethan, on this now at 61,000 feet.
Wow. Yeah, that is a concerning storm headed directly into the Great Bend area. This new warning is for southern Barton County, and that is in effect until 4:30 p.m. Central Time, moving to the northeast at 35 miles per hour. And as David just said, we would have golf ball size hail, 70-mile-an-hour winds, and potentially even, if it organizes a little more, a tornado threat.
Here are the supercells. They're kind of decapitated from the radar beam, but they're there and they are intense. We are now up to 20 severe thunderstorm warnings at the moment, Ethan. So remember earlier it was at 16, then I said 17, now we're up to 20.
Wow, and that's just in a few minutes.
Yeah. We might get a severe thunderstorm warning very soon south of Arnett in Oklahoma. That storm really intensifying. Actually, that is actually more intense than the storm near Sharon. That could get warned very soon.
Yeah, we'll need to watch those as they evolve. I'm sorry.
Celinda Hill says, any rain for Petersburg? Let's go to Petersburg. You're probably referring to Virginia? Yeah, you're probably referring to Virginia. So there is nothing yet for Petersburg, but there are some multi-celled storms moving in your general direction. Okay, let's play this through. Yeah, they're moving towards Petersburg in Virginia. But none of these are severe warned. That's not to say one could get at least severe warned later on. Because there is a storm moving over Lawrenceville right now, McKinney, that is headed towards Petersburg on the 295 corridor. So yeah, there could be some severe weather there in a little while. And another warning. Gosh, this line, Ethan, in Smith Center is absolutely wicked. Oh, tornado warning. It's at Leonard's. It's at Learned Storm, Ethan. We got a tornado warning.
Okay.
There is some intense rotation on that.
Yep, there we go. Eastern Pawnee County and northwestern Stafford County in south central Kansas. Until 4:30 p.m., this is a tornado warning currently located near Zook, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. And that is the only tornado warning storm we have right now, but it is organizing.
Yeah. And we have echo tops in this area up to 50 to 60,000 feet, Ethan. So cloud tops possibly over 60,000 feet high. And look at all of the hail markers on this. We have more than 20 on this. More than 20 hail markers.
Yeah, that's another important thing too. Listed in the tornado warning, it's capable